Welcome to the Black Male Impact. Today we have as guest Mr. Keith Green. Mr. Green, welcome to the Black Male Impact.
Thank you. The honor is mine to be called upon for this great conversation.
Man, it's a pleasure having you here. But before we get into the conversation, Mr. Green is a change agent for HBCU. He's also a program manager at UNCF, and he's also a doctoral student at Clark Atlanta University. But before we get into the conversation itself today, I'm just going to ask Mr. Green to share more about himself so we can get, or you can get to understand who he is before we get into the conversation. Mr. Green, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Cross. I'm honored and privileged to be here today. Keith Green, born and raised from Atlanta, Georgia. When I did a few stints in the military, in the U.S. Navy. I'm a husband to a beautiful wife and a father to 3 beautiful children. And I'm a person who's a big advocate, a fan of HBCUs, as you just emphasized, kind of understanding the importance of collectiveness on why we're here, what we're trying to achieve, and the goal of bringing us together to solve a common goal. And that led me to UNCF. I'm a big fan of serving. It's not about me, it's about serving the greater good. I have this philosophy of Ubuntu, a South African proverb is I am because we are. So it's not about Keith, it's about how can we together share a common mission, common goal. And that led me to, be a program manager for UNCF. Off time, I love serving, whether it be through the 100 Black Men of Douglasville, through my fraternity. Just how can I be that beacon of light towards other people? How can I say, I've done a good best I can to my ability? So I know that was a lot, but that's kind of my, as they say, elevator speech, but that's who I am and what I'm trying to achieve.
And that's great because one of my mentor, and he's there at Clark as well, Dr. Kimbrough, he said the service we provide to humanity is the rent we pay for being here on earth. So being of service, that's the way to live our lives. And you have been doing it. You're serving the military, and now you are serving the community, which is the best way for us to live. It's not really about us. Is what we do for our fellow people, so that's important, man. So thanks again for being here on the Black Male Impact. Normally, we're going to start off with this question, and as the conversation goes, we see where it takes us. My first question to you is, what is the mindset that it takes to make a positive impact?
That is a great question. All full transparency, I feel it has to be a focused mind. We are making an impact, especially. The goal is change behavior, right? So to me, the mindset has to be a focused mindset. What is the goal? Like, what are you trying to achieve? How do you spend your time wisely? How are you investing in other people? Because again, impact, you're making a difference. You're making a point where I'm going to change you from one state to another state. So I feel personally, and from my perspective, having a strong focused mindset on exactly what are you trying to achieve, by when, but what day, and by whom. So I feel, again, want to be transparent is, a focus, very clear, targeted outcome you're trying to seek.
Yeah, I think that is really important when it comes to creating change, because sometimes we hear people want to make an impact, but don't have a direct target. And when we have a direct target, I think it helps us to reduce the distractions. And reducing the distractions help us to zone in on that which we want to accomplish. So it's great that you remind us today that the importance of having a focused mind, because I think that is important when it comes to making a positive change. Which leads me to my next question. What advice do you have for the men listening and how they can play a role in creating positive change?
Dr. Cross, that's such a great question, man. I would say, again, from my perspective, is we discussed kind of briefly earlier of unity. We have to get on the same page. We have to be on one accord, one mission. If we're not, we'll have different variations of change, right? I believe change is having a title or degree. I believe change is hey, I went to church, that's it. You know, again, having a very clear, targeted, unified approach, I feel can create positive change. But the same, you know, play devil advocate for 1 second is there are some who will be resistant to change because I've been so comfortable, I would say, in my processes for many, many years. And when change comes, either I'm going with the change or against the change. So yes, I believe having a unified message with the acceptance that there are some that who may buy into the change and there's some who may not. But my mission is how can I again be a beacon? Not the you know leader wherever the, you know somebody placed me at, but how can I be at least a beacon or a light of hope to begin that conversation and bring a change to the community?
You know, man, and that also is really important, especially within an organization. Having that unified vision is important. But as you mentioned, that you yourself may have got comfortable and not, you know, ready for change. And being that you know it's important to be on the same page when it comes to change, what would you advise someone who is resistant or resisting to change?
I love the question of the cross. It gives me a little slight pause and just being mindful of just our history. You know, when change came, how were they able to accept the change? It's gonna be tough, like I said before. My advice would be just if it's for you, it's for you. You know, I'm not gonna say, you know, hey, you should do this and that's it. You know, really fill it out. Is this something I'm willing to accept in my spirit, in myself? Because now I got switched from what I've been doing to something else. So I feel the best advice would be find somebody who you're willing to see yourself. Again, it's tough trying to change yourself. Because trust me, I do it as well. But for me, understanding why I'm changing is that why part. I think we get caught up in that why space. Like, oh man, I gotta, you know, change the way I eat to come better, you know, lose weight or gain weight. So I think it's the why part. Why am I doing this? How is it gonna impact my life? And once I answer those how and why part, I think people who do resist change were able to, okay, let me take a step back and maybe this is something I'm willing to invest in myself.
Man, you know what? I really like that perspective because that's one question we sometimes don't ask ourselves when it comes to change or creating change. Why do I want to create this change? Why do I want to change within myself? Or because once you start asking yourself the why, you start to see benefits, or you know the benefits start to come to mind. And once the benefits start, you know, outweighs the why you want to change, the benefit outweighs why you want to stay the same, you're more likely to start doing the things that will help to create the change. So I really appreciate that perspective because sometimes we don't ask ourselves the why. And as I said, in asking ourselves the why, we get to learn about the benefits. When the benefits outweigh staying the same, we are more likely to, you know, get on path to create that change. So I really appreciate that perspective, which leads me to my next question. How can we, as Black men, help to change the narrative today? And you can speak from any perspective. It could be education, it could be community. How can we change the narrative today as Black men?
That question has many layers to it, Dr. Cross. I feel, again, being a husband and father, let me speak on me, on Keith, having that value, having that visual image of the men in the house. It starts in the house.
Yeah.
Then from the house goes to the community. Then community goes to the school system. From the school system goes to the local government. Local government goes to federal government. So I feel there's layers and tiers to this. If we're not fixing or if we're not changing from within our own house, I don't see us going anywhere. I think the further we keep jump skipping steps in this process. The narrative will be, hey, I'm the successful lawyer in this law firm. I'm the great. I'm glad. You know, what about your communities that need your help? What about the household who needs your help? From my experience, now I see quite often that if we're not addressing that elephant, which is the house first, how can you fix the community, the school system, right? Higher education, K through 12, right? How you fix the economic workforce, right? As Black men. How do you fix the local government? How do you fix the policy of federal government? It's like tiers to it. But I think we keep trying to skip from the house is okay until the local government, or when is the problem, we addressing the layers, which is the school system, the community, and house. I feel in order to get really one accord, change the narrative, we have to do a better job in advocating for each other and having a good foundation, which is to me the house. Whether you're married, not married, you have children, right? What image are you having or displaying to your community or even to the households? I think step one is household, step two, community, step three is your school system, step four is your workforce, step five is local and your federal government.
Man, that is really important. Starting with home, and that means starting with self, means we have to model that which we want to see change. And I like how you put it, where it don't make sense we jump the steps and avoid working on ourselves, that we want to address the community. Let's start with self, home, and then we go to the community, go to the schools, and I think that's how we can create a change. Because I strongly believe, as you mentioned, that it should start with us. It should start in our home. And I also believe that as Black men or Black people on a whole, there are things that we need to do and don't rely on external to do for us what we can do for ourselves. So as you mentioned, when it comes to changing the narrative, starting at home, starting in our community, in the places that we are in, I think that is important when it comes to changing the narrative. I know that you have served in the military and now you are in UNICEF when it comes to change, right? What are some of the resistance that you may have experienced? And now where there's a lot of talks about HBCUs and we want to improve with more students, what are some of the resistance you may experience with you trying to get people to understand the value?
Cross, I love the questions, man. You hit me on all sides today. HBCUs. I'm gonna go back to what I said before. The house.
Mm-hmm.
HBCUs created a safe space for Black people to have their voice. Yeah. That was the mission of HBCUs. After World War II, after the Civil War, right? How can you educate free Black men and women? The mission is, educating for men and women become teachers and preachers, right?
Yeah.
I feel we have lost that value, lost that purpose. That is me, it's who has the title, right? Who has the title, who has the largest endowments, right? Who has the largest enrollment for HBC, right? Who's the lead pastor of the church? Mind you, 100 and plus HBCUs, right? 10% of the American college universities in America, right? We represent 10% of it. So 101. So it's very tight knit, right?
Yeah.
And until we get past the historical part of HBCUs, until now, 2024, have we lost our mission? Have we lost our focus and goal? I think yes and no. I think there are some schools understanding the historical significance of why they're created, to be innovative, to be, there for students to thrive at, right? And there are some who are living in 1865. Some of unfortunately, some of their views are antiquated. Back in 1960, right, that's cool, but we're in 2024 now. There's a whole different set of kids. It's a whole different perspective now, right? Whole different mindset, right? A lot of kids are trying to go to college. So how are you making your college, particularly HBCUs, more attractive and more affordable? Because I can go on YouTube and make X amount of dollars a year, right? As opposed to going to school 4 years, getting some loans, right? Then I gotta hopefully I get a job for me to pay back my loans. So I think we have to really be mindful on a path forward. From a policy level, like what are we going to change to be better equipped for the next generation of students, especially Gen Z students, right? How are we preparing our minds and soul and body to experience a new wave of students come around? The non-traditional students are on the rise now. I can go back to school when I get older, supposed to wait at 18, 19 years old. So we have to be mindful on this space we're in now for the next 50 years, right? Will we see 101 HBCUs still thriving 50 years from now? For me, from my vantage point, I don't know. The data I'm looking now, I'm not really sure, but it could change within the next 5, 10 years. Like, are we willing to change with the times that we're in?
Okay, I appreciate you sharing that perspective as we're talking about change and Black men in these spaces. And I think by us being in those spaces, I think we can give the next generation some perspective by being there because they're looking up to us. They're
Yes.
looking what we're doing. They're looking what
Yes.
we're engaged in. And by being in those spaces, I think we give them hope. And I
Yes.
think we do give them the idea that being in these spaces are, still available to you, to the next generation. So I think as Black men, it's important that we are in those spaces, and especially when it comes to the changes that we are experiencing, they need to see us more than ever. So,
Yes.
which leads me to my next question. You working in that space, and even before you come into education, because I know you say you're serving in the military, what or who has influenced or inspired you to pursue the path that you're on?
I can name several people that inspired me, from middle school, high school, to college, to military, to now. And I picked up some good nuggets along the way, but I had to really do some internal work on myself. What is my purpose? What am I here to do? Right. So using all that information I gathered from men, from my father, my grandfather, several mentors in middle school, high school, college, graduate school, Clark Atlanta now, military. How can I use all that information to find Keith? So it took me a while to really, get to that space of this is my purpose, this is my mission. My mission is to serve other people. When I got that clear message on what I was supposed to do and my part in bringing change, I felt more comfortable on shaping who I am as a person. Like, it was more so just I guess something hit me at a certain point, like, Keith, this is who you are. Don't try to compare yourself to others. You're here for a mission. You're here to you know, you're on this path for you, and I feel through this journey on my doctoral journey that it's allowing me to see my path on higher education, that we need more beacons in higher education, especially HBCUs, who are dedicated and passionate about the work they do and not seek titles or positions. Because I feel that, oh, I got to get these awards and accolades, which is great. That comes with the work. If you're doing the work of serving the students, which is the ultimate goal, all that stuff, awards, titles, promotions will come. I think we want that on the front end. I want to be tenured professional, which is great. That's your goal, but you're serving a different goal. I'm not serving the students. So I think for me, doing some internal work spiritually allowed me to be more effective in walking my purpose.
As I was listening to you sharing why and who inspired you to be on the path, one thing that you said that I really appreciate, despite all the people we come in contact with when it comes to us being on the path that we are in, is that internal work on self and how important it is to work on self when it comes to but I really appreciate that perspective because I think when we're on purpose or want to be on purpose, it's important that we find ourselves so we don't compare ourselves to others. Because yeah, we're going to meet people, but we want to find who we are when it comes to serving and serving others. So I really appreciate that perspective and give you a clear message. And it's good to be that person within the space that we are in to be the inspiration. It's not so much about the titles that we sometimes see other people modeling, but more so to be that inspiration and that hope for those who we are entrusted to serve. So I really appreciate you sharing that, which leads me to my next question. What is your perspective on the current climate of Black men in society today?
The current climate of Black men in American society today. I think it's two things. I feel it's PTSD, post-traumatic slave syndrome, and I think it's crab barrel mentality. We are so quickly to tear each other down. We don't know how to grab somebody up from behind. I'm a big fan advocate. I have this on I'm looking at now in my office is, again, I said earlier, Ubuntu, I am because we are. If you fail, Dr. Cross, I'm failing as a Black
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
My job and mission is to uplift the next Black man.
Correct.
Throughout history, there's a few times you've seen we have done this work before. We have become unified.
Yeah.
Going to your first point before is the change part. There are some people who are willing to change. Marcus Garvey had a plan on bringing us back to Africa, right? Hey, y'all, what y'all want to do? Harriet Tubman had a plan on this is where we're trying to go, y'all. Dr. King had a plan. Malcolm X had a plan. Thomas Cole, who was the first, President Clark Atlanta, has a plan. So just, again, getting on the same accord, having the same messaging as collectively, right? It's about individual. We do okay in pockets and stuff, like, organization, we do okay individually, I feel. But collectively, I don't, as a millennial, as they call me, 38 years old, I don't see the collective effort. I see we do things in pockets, but I feel until we address those two things, the PTSD part and the other part I mentioned before, I really don't see us. How can we really truly maximize our full potential as Black men until we address those two concepts I mentioned earlier?
Man, those two are two very important pieces that we need to address, especially the cabinet barrier mentality. We are so great,
Yes.
innately.
Yes.
We have the potential to do great things, exceptional things, extraordinary things. But as you mentioned, too many times we try to pull each other down. And even if we're not pulling each other down, we don't support, we don't uplift others. As I was talking to someone recently about lift as we climb. Are we
Yes.
really lifting as we climb? And when you look within the education space or the professional space where we are, because that's where we think would have seen a lot of lifting and climbing.
Yes.
As W.E. Du Bois shared so many years ago about the talented 10th, where the 10% of the Black community should lift the next 90%. We have more than 10% of Black people who are doing exceptionally well. But yet we have so many challenges within the Black community. So it goes back to, what you're saying with the PTSD.
Yes.
And the cabinet barrel mentality. I think, we are still experiencing the traumas from past experiences.
Hey, Dr. Cross, if I may, and let me add on to a little thing to that.
Yeah.
We understood what happened. I think we understand the history of us. I think it's more accountability now. Dr. Cross, you're in this position now. Just for example, you're in this position of podcasting, motivation, reach one, each one, reach one, teach one.
Yeah.
My job as a Black man is to hold you accountable.
Yeah.
Dr. Cross, how can I help you achieve that goal? That's simple, right? My job is to hold you. You try to say, hey, how can I support you? That's simple. And I think we haven't addressed that accountability piece yet as well. How we hold each other accountable. We know that, okay, well, that's not, relax. You're doing more damage to our community than you need to. Man, we'll be okay. No, we're not. But I think in other parts of that PTSD, I think we know what happened. We researched it. This history says it. Got that. Yeah. I think now we're at a place where we are offered opportunities, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't like this 50 years ago. So I feel we have somewhat freedoms to navigate the space on all sides, right? I think now, how do we hold at this jump 2024? How do we hold each other accountable? But we need a common message to see how do we do we hold each other accountable? Once we're standing what the message is for us, what's our mission as Black men to do collectively?
I think that is important because I know you were mentioning Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Harriet Tubman, they had a unified message. They had that, even if they didn't have everyone going along with what they were doing, they had a clear message on what they want to accomplish. And I think even though those who were following didn't really say we're holding you accountable, they were actually holding them accountable. Because if you're going to show up and do this, all right, this is what you say you're going to do. So we're going to come out here and support. And I think we need to, as you mentioned, we have more opportunities now, of course. But as I think, as you have stated, we have to realize that we have to move the needle forward. This is not something that we're going to rest on someone else's shoulder. This is what we need to hold on our shoulders and bring forth. And we have the strength. We have the resources. We may not have all the resources we need, but when you look at how we spend our money, and we do have, maybe we need to gain more knowledge about how to grow our wealth and use the resources that we have. But we do have the resources. But as you mentioned, those who are out in front need to be held accountable. People need to hold us accountable to do what we say we're going to do so we can actually move forward. So I really appreciate you sharing that, especially when it comes to the perspective of where we are in society today, because we have a lot of work to do. And as Black men, we have seen a lot of success, but we still have a lot of work to do to change the narrative and to be that inspiration for the next generation. Which leads me to this next question, which is somewhat similar to what we have been talking about. But what change do you want to see in general and amongst Black men?
Working together.
Working together.
Sharing, knowledge sharing. If the other crowd knows about real estate, and I know about electricity, right? House needs electricity, house need to be built. So I think working together, figure out what you can do, what you can't do, and how can I fill that void? And that's what I do at UNCF. My job is to really simple, identify what the gap is. Why is housing this way? Why is it rolling this way? So my goal through that space, even in general, is to identify what the gap is. Identify the gap and find a way, as Clark motto, find a way to make one.
Yeah.
I think once we have that, we mentioned throughout the conversation, unity part, being on the same accord, like at the cross. What are some of your needs? If I can't address them, I can find another Black man who may has an opportunity for you.
Correct.
How can we again connect the dots? And I feel we in my perspective, overthink, overanalyze, keep it simple. What does Dr. Cross need? If he needs a event space for an event, I know somebody who has an event space, give him, an opportunity.
Correct.
And I think again, working together, knowledge sharing is, I feel, to move forward as a people, like truly move forward and move past me. Like, look, how can I help serve Dr. Cross? How can I help serve Dr. John Doe across the street?
Correct.
You may need a need that I can help fulfill for him.
Man, that is like so important. And I think once we can get to that part, man, a lot of our problems would be solved. Because it's from the knowledge sharing to opening doors for others. Once we get to a certain, not even a certain position, but once we're there and we can open doors, we should open doors. We know how challenging it can be for us, especially if you are the first generation. You may not have someone in the space that you want to be in to get the opportunity or to speak on your behalf. So if you're there, it's not to say that person needs to work as hard or not to work as hard, but if you can help, as you mentioned, I think that will change a lot within our community. And not only providing opportunity, it would also change help close the wealth gap. Because when we open doors for others, we provide them opportunity so they can increase their financial bottom line, so they don't have to struggle as much as possible. So I really appreciate you sharing that and help us to remember the importance of working together and finding the gap that we can help solve and really solve those problems. And so I'm going to shift gear a little bit. So my next question to you is, what was a pivotal moment in your life? Was it in the military? Was it on your doctoral journey? What was a pivotal moment?
That's a powerful question. I want to take time to answer it. So I was in Big Brothers Big Sisters program in Atlanta, Georgia. Seeing this young man from he was, what he is now, since I knew him since middle school, 6th grade to 12th grade. And he told me this that stuck to me even to this day. So I finished the program about 2 years ago. And what he told me is that, Keith, we need you. We need more Black men in space to give us direction. And that prompted me to get my doctoral degree. I feel, again, if I'm in a space where I can bring policy change to HBCU, to bring more scholarships for young men and women, to bring an opportunity for you to level the playing field, let me do so. That was 2022, 2 years ago. He's graduating from high school, doing great things. But he said, Keith, we need y'all. We need more Black men to mentor, to volunteer, to just be there. You have to have, you don't need to say much, just your presence alone, a presence of a Black man showing up, showing out. Say, hey, I know he's gonna provide for us. He can provide, he'll fill that need. And that kind of prompted me to pursue my doctoral degree, to pursue that Clark Atlanta, because I, went there undergrad, to, if there's a space my spirit wants to go to, hey, Keith, how can I provide support to next generation of students? Again, particularly scholarship, just fulfill that need. Do you need a hot meal? Do you need housing? How can I, in this space, support you? But my pivotal moment was in 2018 or 19, when I met my little through Big Brothers Big Sisters. Like, he said, Keith, we need y'all now. Like, if you were here 10 years ago, my whole life would change 10 years ago. So that was, when he said to me, Keith, we need you, that was like my light bulb for me moving forward.
And just listening to you with that experience, I've heard several times it becomes easier for the next generation to aspire to great things by seeing it. I kind of paraphrase how I've heard it, but it's easier for them to become what they see. So by seeing you there, and for that young man to really express it, the importance of you being there, he may have seen something in you that you say, what, man, I can become, like Mr. Green. He's showing up, he's modeling what excellence look like. So this is what I want to be. I want to be around this more. So I really appreciate you sharing that, because as Black men, we need to know that we are valuable in spaces that we are in. And that sometimes, even though a young person may not come to us and share how they feel about us being there, they do see us and really appreciate that we're there in the spaces that they are in and stuff like that. So it's important. So I really appreciate you sharing that. So my next question to you is, what life lesson have you learned late in life that you believe is important and can benefit this current generation?
Whew. Man, we could be on for hours talking about this question.
Man.
What life lesson have I learned late in life? To believe in myself. I've been told so many things. Again, going back to direction, it goes back to my point earlier. I had a father, I had, men in my life, uncles who shaped me, who couldn't really provide, they provide what they could for what they knew, right, in their state. They did what they did, right? But I see now a lot of us, unfortunately don't have that same luxury. So it's difficult to really talk to a young man or men in general on, how can I serve you? Even though how can I serve you not knowing they don't know how to be served? Like, I don't know what I want type of thing. So it's kind of difficult to see what how can I help you out if I mean knowing how can I help you out? Because you may not know. So I think first really go back to knowing thyself, like, okay, this is what I need. Let me articulate what I really need. Let me articulate, what I think I might need. Then from there, I think we can have a better understanding how can we serve each other. Like, I feel we still, again, doing the pockets, but again, collectively, is believing yourself, having that mentor along the way to kind of help you with your guide. But again, that comes with really understanding what you can offer to the world, believe in yourself. Okay, this is what I can offer. I can offer being a public speaker, or I can offer being a carpenter, or I can offer being an electrician. Like, what is that my niche, or what's my purpose that I can offer? Because I believe myself so much that I'm skilled at this right here. I master this craft. I can provide martial arts services to young Black men in middle schools, right? But that was for me. Two things for me I learned late in life is having a great mentor and believing in yourself. And hopefully that mentor will help kind of guide you on developing what your purpose is.
You know, man, those two are really important and powerful, especially believe in yourself. And as you mentioned, that not all young Black male have the experience of having that father figure in the home and not having that guidance early, and then you grow and become a big man, grown, you may lack certain things, not knowing that you really lack it. But as you mentioned, as a Black male, grown, you may not know how to receive certain things because, you know, you didn't have that growing up. So that's a great reminder. But as you mentioned, having mentors, and that's why as adults, I think once we learn certain things, if we didn't have the experience growing up, and we realize that we may lack certain things, then we have to learn it or relearn. I think being a mentor then becomes really important, because now we supposed to help the next generation to learn what we learned late and the importance of it. Because it doesn't make sense that we wait until they become adults. You know, we start sharing with them what they should have learned at a younger age. So I really appreciate you sharing that. And it's a great reminder to believe in oneself and get a mentor as they navigate their journey in life. And my next question to you, we're getting close to the end of today's conversation, but my next question to you is, where can the listeners find you and help support the great work that you're doing to make a difference?
I would say the best way you can reach me is find me on LinkedIn. I'm very active in that space. You know, I believe getting your voice out through, you know, writing is, I found, helpful. I've noticed a uptick now in my followers because I'm beginning to get better at just speaking my piece in the HBCU space. How are we, just for example, how are we recruiting and retaining our Black students on campus, right? So I noticed by me speaking more, being really not just saying it, just being a true advocate toward HBCUs, finding ways to support not only one school, like I said, 101 HBCUs. How can we, you know, play our part in ensuring that the next generation has hope, has a opportunity to contribute towards the community? So I'm mainly, you know, on LinkedIn, you know, look, Keith Green, Keithy Green II. You look me up, or, you know, you can find me on Facebook, same name, Keithy Green II. And just, you know, respond to the comments, contribute towards the conversation. I'm a big advocate on collaboration. If y'all feel that we can collaborate on different projects, different even publication opportunities, I'm here to do my part and ensure that we are both successful in our collaborations together.
Oh man, thank you for sharing that. And I will definitely be putting your ways to connect with you in the description. So anyone who wants to reach out to you, collaborate with you, and get to learn more about what you're doing, especially for HBCUs, and they may also have the same passion to connect with you to further the work that you're doing to make a difference. So my final question to you is, what impact do you want to have on the world?
So you're gonna drop the last jewel on me on that one. What impact? Knowing that I did my best, I don't have a measurable outcome. My goal is to play my part in making a way a better way, a more smoother way. I'd rather you work smarter than harder. My goal is to make sure that the cross has a smoother journey than I have.
Right.
Because some things I had to work for, earn for, because I didn't know the knowledge. So I had to go to school, talk to people. But if I knew information I could share with you, make a journey like easier, I consider it impact. That I did my part, I connected the dots. It's the onus on the person I give the information to do whatever you want to do with the information. But my goal is, okay, I gave this person a resource, I give them a door, as you mentioned, open the door for them. So for them to go to the door, put the work in, and I'll do follows. Hey, Dr. Cross, are you good in your new position? How can I help you out? Type of things. But impact for me is, here's your information that you asked me for. Here's support that you asked me that you needed. I did my job. That's what I consider impact to the world.
That's great. And that's what we should do, provide help and support to others. And as this always say, leave the world better than we found it. So whatever we learn, we share it, because if we learn it and we keep it to ourselves, I don't know if it really have any real impact. The impact comes from sharing the knowledge we have. As you mentioned earlier, knowledge sharing. We should share what we know with others so they can utilize it to better their life, and it will just continue for generations to come. But as kind of sum up the conversation today, you have shared so many nuggets and reminders to the listeners on how important it is to do internal work when it comes to doing the work that we're here to do. Because if we do the internal work, we don't have to compare ourselves to others. And, working together is really important, and having that unified mission to accomplish greater work is important. So I want to say thanks again for being here on the Black Male Impact. And I can tell you this will not be our last conversation, because I will be talking in the future about the HBCU experience and how we can get the next generation of students to see the value in attending HBCUs, being that, that's one of the areas that you are really focused on. So we will definitely have future conversation.
Absolutely, absolutely. I did have one question.
Yes.
For you, Dr. Cross, and I was, writing down notes as we were speaking. That's all I was looking back and forth, just taking notes down, powerful notes as we kind of talked. From your conversations with others, if you're able to do, what are some of the common themes you discovered? Because I was watching some of your, great feeds, your recordings. So what are some of those common themes that help me as well as a Black man that you kind of picked up along the way?
Right, that's a great question because I was reflecting on my recent conversation with one of the guests, and they talk about board of directors, and it goes back to the same thing that you have mentioned, where we need to have mentors. So we need to have people that will hold us accountable. Because he was talking about, as Black men, we need to be the best leader. We need to make sure we don't fall prey to the stereotypes that they have mentioned about us. So when we have the board of directors, we have people that's going to hold us accountable to operate in integrity, because they want to say, these are the things that Black men don't do. All right, being that they say we don't do this, I'm going to do what we're supposed to do. I'm not going to do the things that you already predicted that we are supposed to do. So that was one thing, but also from the conversations that I've been having with other guests, they talk about this being a space where they get the opportunity to reflect on things that they haven't shared, which give them a safe space to talk about even their successes, not just the challenges. So you give them the opportunity to talk about what they have accomplished and what they see they can do to make a difference.
Perfect. Thank you. That helps me as well. I like the board of directors thing. Again, going back to what we discussed earlier, that accountability piece. Like, who truly holding us accountable as a collective?
Correct.
Who is really like, look, this is the code, y'all. This is the message. Don't stop at the stop sign, y'all. We all agreed on that, right? Go after make a complete stop. That's the same message. That's the message. So I think I love that. I'm gonna take that. I like that, man. The board of directors thing. That's pretty powerful.
Yeah, and the next thing that I will leave you with today, that one of the guests remind all of us during the conversation study the mistakes of the past so we don't make those mistakes in the present and in the future. Because
Yes.
the change is really in our hands. And there are things that we need to change that the next generation should build on, not change what we should be changing today. So it's important that we study the mistakes of the past so we can do better going forward.
So thank you on that. Powerful.
Yeah, man, that's great. And again, listeners, great to have you here with us again. As always, the goal is to bring guests that will share insights and perspectives that can benefit all of us as we continue on this journey to make a difference. We already know the Black male impact is where positive changes are inspired. So our goal is to share with you what we believe will be beneficial to you. Continue to support us as we continue on this journey. Like, share, and support in any way you find possible, because our goal is to make a difference, not just for today, but for the future of our community. Thanks again for being here with us.
Thank you all for this opportunity.